On this episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, I welcome Justin Kakuska to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. From a college student searching for a purpose to director of hockey operations with the Wisconsin Badger women's hockey team, Kakuska shares how doing the small things led to big opportunities and a life inside a 9-time national championship program. This will be a good one. Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. What is up wherever you are, whatever you're doing? I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to another episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Decora. We are in the Buck and Honey's remote studios on the east side of our great capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and YouTube at Survive and Thrive 8791. You can follow the podcast and get access to previous episodes on all those podcast platforms at Survive and Thrive 8791. The podcast, don't forget to hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you listen to the show. Leave me a comment if you like what you heard. If there's a topic or guest who would love to share their story, email me at tdecor@gmail.com. Glad you could join us. Our mission is to share stories and conversations that make you cry, laugh, and think, stimulating emotions, creating laughter, and inspiring the mind. A new episode will air on Monday and Thursday morning featuring a wide range of guests. The podcast will touch on many subjects such as, but not limited to, grief, loss of a loved one, recovery, professional setback, mental illness, success despite challenges, etc. Our guests will share how they learn to survive and thrive. Before I introduce our esteemed guest, I'm having a hard time, Justin, taking my eyes off that trophy back there. We're going to talk about it a little bit, but I'd like to highlight our website, surviveandthrive8791.com. You can see what we are doing and the events we are hosting. If you're a business or an advocate for mental health and recovery, we invite you to partner with us through sponsorship opportunities. Please contact us at surviveandthrive8791@gmail.com. This is our guest and episode intro. According to the internet, and the internet is always right, correct, Justin?
That is usually correct.
And that was prompted with a little bit of a, I could hear that little chuckle. All right, well, this might change your mind. In my house, I don't need the internet. I don't need Siri. I don't need Alexa. I've got my wife, Sarah, and she's always right.
That's correct. I have my Jordan. She's always right.
You have your Jordan, and she's always right. Okay, awesome. I'm glad. Yes, happy wife, happy life, but yeah, you might get there someday. Well, according to an AI artificial intelligence overview, while hundreds of thousands of student athletes compete at the NCAA Division I level, the number of people employed directly by successful or top-tier D1 college athletic teams is relatively small, representing a highly competitive field. Today's guest has joined that small number of individuals who are at top-tier Division I athletic programs. Today, I welcome Justin Kakuska to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. Justin grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, our capital city. He attended Waunakee High School and is a proud Warrior. After high school, Justin would take his talents to the University of Minnesota Duluth. After a year there, he transferred to the University of Wisconsin, Madison, where he graduated with a degree in communications. While in college, he worked in different roles with the UMD and UW women's hockey teams. Most recently, he was part of the Wisconsin Badger women's hockey team's 5th national championship. Today, I'm so glad you could join us. Justin Kakuska, what is up?
Hey, Coach Decora. I'm really happy to be here. This is my first podcast, and it's truly an honor.
Yes.
I'm really excited to be here.
Glad to have you here.
Well, I appreciate it, and honestly, I think this is kind of a full circle moment for me, especially because you were my high school football coach my freshman year. It's really cool. Now it's about a little over a decade later, kind of reconnect and catch up and talk about life.
That means we're getting old.
I know. But
so when that championship game, we're watching the game against Ohio State, and there's the jumping up and hooting and hollering, and I'm always looking for, where's Justin? I hope they show Justin. I hope they show Justin. And then of course some of the videos that came out afterward, and being up in like the booth must have been where the assistant coaches were. I think I saw you back there, jumping up and down. So that was very cool. I do want to touch on the banquet tour, and usually when a team wins a state championship or NCAA championship of that nature, people want to be a part of that.
Yep.
And so I got to assume and maybe I shouldn't, but I'm assuming that there were different meals and people want to have you and be around the team, and you probably were part of that. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, we've in my time at the women's hockey, Wisconsin women's hockey, hasn't been our first rodeo. We've been able to minimize some things, but what's cool is that we kind of treat our trophy like the Stanley Cup, where we let the girls have it all the way through graduation. They can take it wherever they want. It goes on its own little tour. Next time anyone's in Laban, take a peek at our trophies, because each one has its own little chips and dents. And there's been a few times where it comes back and it just reeks of a bar. Yeah. So we let the girls have a blast with it and share it with the students. It goes all over Madison. So each trophy kind of has its own story, how they celebrated with it. Actually, this weekend is Mifflin.
Oh, boy. And
maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we let the girls take it to Mifflin, and it was all over the papers. And so we're not letting them have the trophy this weekend. Actually, it's going to... one of the girls is taking it to a hospital today. So she's sharing it with the hospital and doing some events with it. So, we really appreciate the community in Wisconsin itself, and they have every right to have a piece of this, because their support means so much to us. The girls went to a Bucks game a couple weeks ago, and they met Matt LaFleur. He was in the box next door. So they got to meet him, and apparently he wants the girls to come out to a game this year.
Oh,
so
boy.
Currently working on that. Maybe we can pull some strings. I wasn't there. Otherwise, I would have got Matt LaFleur's phone number.
Yeah.
Maybe send him some messages on how to run a team.
Or ask him how he cuts his own hair.
So I wish I was there. But so we're working on that. We're going to a Brewers game this summer. We got it against the Cubs. They're a Friday game in June. So we got some Chicago girls on the team that we did it for them. They just have to wear a Brewers jersey.
And did I see that there's also, you have a girl from Cleveland?
Yes.
Didn't she get wasn't?
Yep. So Layla Edwards, she's from Cleveland, and she's from, I think, the same area as the Kelsey brothers. Okay. So they've, especially under their podcast, they've taken her under their wing and given her a lot of great publicity. And, so we won the championship right before spring break. So all the girls left for spring break and were able to do different things in their communities. And Layla is someone that great person and even better player. Well, I would even say she's a better person than player.
Let's get that one. Yeah. She's a better person, and she happens to be a pretty good hockey player too.
I would say that. So she's been honored, and she's gone to a bunch of events, and we've been fortunate to have a few Olympians on our team,
including the head coach.
Yep. So they've had quite the year of being able to win gold and then win a national championship when they got back to college, and so their schedules have now been impossible to get a hold of them.
Well, that's great to hear, because not only are they promoting themselves, but they're also promoting the women's hockey program, and a lot of people now are familiar with the Motion W. Great for our image, but it says a lot about our players too. Okay. Before we get to your story, I need to talk about our sponsor, Buck and Honey's Restaurants, are a place that people can escape to. For me, it's a great escape from cooking dinner. Do you cook? And if so, genre, style, or cuisine? I can cook. I only have a few things, which is tacos and frozen pizzas for me. So that's the keep it pretty simple. Yeah, college menu typically. Yeah, but my girlfriend Jordan, she is a connoisseur in the kitchen. She is always trying to find ways to push herself and just find new recipes. That's kind of her gift for everyone. In a way, right. She loves events and being able to say, I cooked that. What is your favorite meal that Jordan cooks? The right answer is all of them. The right answer is all of them. There you go. Yeah, but I would say, right off the top of my head, a couple days ago, she made a eggplant parm. Ooh. With fresh eggplants, and she's got a little bit of a garden, so
So she's got fresh tomatoes and she just makes everything from scratch. And so eggplant parm was first thing on my mind, but
all right. Well, with their great food and drink menu, 5-star customer service, and a welcoming and vibrant atmosphere, people keep coming back with locations in Sun Prairie, Monona, Waunakee, and Mount Horeb. Most communities in Dane County, which encompasses the Madison metropolitan area, can get to a Buck and Honey's within 10 to 15 minutes. Little drum roll. It's my Menards table. Menards. You can jump on anytime you want. Have you been to Buck and Honey's?
I have several times actually in the Monona location.
Yes.
They've hosted multiple events for us. Team dinners. We've had banquets there. They've got a great space. I think it's right on the water as well. So
it's a. I tell people it's 5-star when you walk in. 5-star restaurant, 5-star food, but it's at a 2-star price. The meals are very affordable, and really that's why people keep coming back. All right, on the podcast, our guests follow the format for sharing their story like this. In segment 1, we talk about what was it like, Justin's history, what happened to get Justin on the podcast, and in segment 2, we continue to talk about what happened and get into what it's like now and discuss Justin's 5 suggestions for thriving. So you grew up in Madison, Wisconsin. You graduated from Waunakee High School, and you're a proud warrior. Tell us what life was like growing up in the Kakuska house as the only child.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm an only child, so all I kind of had in our house was my parents, which was great. My dad, he's from Wisconsin, and we've got family in La Crosse, so we spend most summers going up to La Crosse and seeing my grandparents. My dad, I will say, he was the oldest of 5. My grandparents had their kids pretty young, so my dad was kind of like a pseudo father even for his siblings.
Yeah, I suppose.
So for me as an only child, all of the attention was on me. I would say, especially my dad being around kids, like raising his siblings almost. He put all of his attention into me. So really for me, it was just always kind of finding something to, get out of the house, but also find my own interests and hobbies just to be productive. In a way, Madison is kind of a Goldilocks city of not being too big, not being too small. And it's a great community.
Right.
It is. And we got the lakes, and it's just, I think it's a perfect place to call home.
Okay, you talked about your dad. How about your mom?
Yeah, my mom, she's from DC area. They met in DC before they both moved back to Madison and had me. But I would say my mom is one of the most sweetest, caring people.
Most moms are.
Yeah,
most moms are.
But I would say my mom really is. She is the sweetest person. We live next to a bus stop. We occasionally have people that will knock for money, and my mom she'll always try to help others. And so
heart of gold.
She does. Yeah. And so I'm blessed to have her as my mom. And I hope I share a lot of traits that she has.
I think you do. You have a special friend in your life. Talk about her.
Yeah,
I mean, you've already talked about her cooking abilities, but talk about her.
Well, I say she's a Michelin star chef, but she also is an even better person as well. I try to surround myself around good people. And my girlfriend, Jordan, we've now been dating a bit over 3 years now. We kind of met through mutual friends at the college club, and the KK. Yep, the KK, where all love meets. She was working at the NCAA at the time, and her intern at the NCAA was one of my college friends at Wisconsin. And so I was at the college club on my birthday, in September of 22, and saw an old friend from college, and she introduced me to her boss, Jordan. And so we kept crossing paths over that year, and I'd say we started dating kind of around the Frozen Four of we went to Tampa Bay for the Frozen Four, and it was like, hey, are we dating? And I was like, well, I just bought an expensive plane ticket. I'd love to. That was kind of simple, but we've kind of been inseparable ever since. But we understand each other. And
after high school, you would head north, not quite to Alaska, but north to the University of Minnesota Duluth, UMD, before transferring to the University of Wisconsin Madison. And you graduated with a degree in communications, and I'm rather impressed when you sent me the resume and those the answers to the questions of a couple of master's degrees. So what I want you to talk about, though, to begin with here is talk about how that first year at UMD, at Minnesota Duluth, and how that all started this cascade of success that you've had at a rather young age.
Yeah.
Talk about that first year.
Well, coming out of high school, I didn't tour any colleges. My parents wanted me to stay at least in the Midwest area, and at the time, I applied to Minnesota, the University of Minnesota, the University of Wisconsin, and then Duluth and St. Cloud. And at the time, I mean, I wouldn't say I took high school too serious. That I didn't get into Madison or Minnesota when I initially applied. So the only other two options was St. Cloud and Duluth. And if I'm being honest, I almost flipped a coin on St. Cloud and Duluth. I just always thought I'd figure it out once I got there. And so it fortunately landed on Duluth, and my first day in Duluth was registration day. So I didn't even tour it or anything.
Sight unseen.
Yeah. So right when I got there was first time really I'd ever been to Duluth. The only reason why I chose those schools was that I always knew I wanted to work in hockey in some regard. And each of those schools had Division I hockey teams. Mm-hmm. I just figured if I applied to a school with hockey, I might be able to get my foot in the door. And so Duluth was the place. And to kind of answer your question of how it was for me at Duluth, I would say that would be one of my lower points in my life, was just because it was kind of the first time I was out of Madison. And when I got to Duluth, I remember seeing how much fun all my friends in Madison were doing at Wisconsin, and having FOMO, fear of missing out. And so I would say it was kind of hard. At the time, I found a roommate who we both liked hockey, so we're like, hey, let's room together. And so he was my roommate, but it so happened about 20 some kids from his high school went to Duluth as well. So I thought they would be kind of a good friend group to join, but they started going back down to the cities every week, back to their hometown every weekend. So I would say that fall, the first couple of months of my freshman year, I didn't really have anywhere to go. I just spent it in the dorms on the weekends, and just kind of waiting for my friends to get back from their hometowns. So for me, that was kind of one of the more pivotal moments of my life, just because in a way I was so bored on the weekends. I was like, I just need to get out of here somehow. I just need to find something to do. And when I reached out to Duluth, when I got to Duluth, I reached out to their men's hockey staff about any managerial equipment manager opportunities, and they said they were all booked. So I didn't have that as an opportunity. It was just, what am I going to do? I would say about halfway through my freshman year, I was going to a psychology class, and I sit down next to this girl who's just decked out in Duluth hockey gear. I said, hey, where'd you get all that? And she goes, oh, I'm a manager for the women's hockey team. And I was like, oh, I didn't even think about the women's side. I would love to help. I just want to get out of my dorm on the weekends. I'd love to help. She just said, oh, we're all good for now. And so I said, all right, well, I guess that ship has sailed. And so I remember coming back from winter break, she came back to me and said, "Hey, we actually might be looking. We might need some help." And so I said, "Hey, I would love to help. I would do anything to help and just get out of my dorm." And they just said, "Well, it's not paid, but we'll have you do laundry, mop the floors,
mop the ice."
Yeah, pretty much. They just said, "We got a bunch of jobs that nobody else wants to do, and we'd love for you to come in." So I said, "Hey, you know what? I got nothing else to do on Saturday, so why not?" So that I would say started kicking off my career in working in sports.
And you found a little opening in the door, and you put your foot in before it closed, and you had your foot in there, and all of a sudden this gal, manager, reaches back out to you, and the rest has kind of been history a little bit. It's been just a really cool, it has to be a cool ride for you. I know it's as a former coach and teacher of yours, it's just fun to see all of the success that you've had, and albeit it's from social media and whatnot, but it's still really, really cool to see you post. The successes that you've had has been really cool to watch from afar. One of the reasons we talked about having you come on is to talk about some of the behind the scenes, and then how did you get to where you are today and that journey. But the other reason is that there are some parents out there, or even some young listeners that are listening to the podcast, that, hey, you know what, I have this passion for sports. I'm probably not going to get a Division I or II or even a III opportunity to play, but I just love it, and I love being around the game and the sport. One of the avenues is being a manager. And you kind of sort of maybe lucked into that just because of some circumstances, but there are some people out there that maybe want to do that and figure that out while they're still in high school. What would you say to somebody that is in high school that has, an interest in it? What are some things you would tell them that would help them get into that, foot in the door before, like you did?
Mm-hmm. Well, especially speaking to someone maybe in high school is, to me, at the end of the day, it's about chasing your hobbies and being able to, in a way, get paid for your hobbies or what you love. And for me, sports is always just my hobby and something that I passionately enjoyed. So I just always found any kind of job that had some kind of sports related focus. I got my first job with the Madison Mallards when I was 13. I think they still might be hiring about 14, 15-year-olds. And what they are able to do at the Mallards is just set so many young kids up with at least something on the resume. I worked at Lids for a couple of years where...
Sports related.
Yeah, I mean, that job I still think about is one of my most favorite jobs in a way, because I sold hats, but they're all sports hats, and everyone came in, wanted to talk sports. Mm-hmm. So I would work 10-hour days at Lids just talking sports with people, and that helped me get out of my comfort zone to talk with new people. For me, it doesn't necessarily matter what exactly you do. I think what matters is you trying to get stuff done, or trying to open yourself to different ideas and opportunities. Working in sports is something that a lot of people want to do, even for free. And so you kind of have to do a lot of things that nobody wants to do, like mopping the floors for free on the weekends. But, it's about being part of something bigger than yourself that kind of sets these foundations for whatever next step you take.
Just listening to your story, and you didn't go to Duluth and have this passion of, hey, I want to be in women's hockey, and that's where you ended up. But because of some persistence on your part and asking the right questions and talking to the right people, you have enjoyed enormous amount of success when I look at it. And I don't know if you've had an opportunity to just step back and look and just say, hey, being a part of one national championship is really cool, and that's me. You've been a part of 5 national championships. Because our listeners want to hear the rest of your story and what brought you to the podcast, I need to talk about the sponsor one more time. Buck and Honey's has been with the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew since the beginning, with 4 locations in the Madison area. One is always near. People ask why Buck and Honey's. Owner Tom Anderson places a high priority on the mental health of his employees. He has a mental health professional available for them should they need support. I don't know how many businesses go above and beyond their EAP, Employee Assistance Program, but Buck and Honey's does. Justin Kakuska is in the Buck and Honey's remote studios today to talk about how being part of a successful Division I college program has mostly ups, but can have its downs as well. And you've heard a little bit about that. He's here to share his story and give us a look into the life of a student manager and now staff member of a top-tier college women's sports team. You'll hear more about that and what he is doing now. Please stay tuned. Don't change that channel. You're not going to want to miss segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. We will be back.
If you, a loved one, or someone you know is experiencing a physical, mental, or emotional crisis, there is help and resources out there. Contact NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness Helpline, at 1-800-950-6264. This is a free service providing information, resource referrals, and support to people living with a mental illness, their family, providers, and the public. United Way 211 is available 24/7, 365, and offers free confidential assistance. They connect people with the local programs and services that can help. Dial 211. Emergency Crisis Services, dial 911. The Suicide Prevention Lifeline, dial 988. To connect via web, chat, visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Along with those numbers, there is help. You just need to say 3 words. I need help. Now, back to the show.
We are back. Welcome back to segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Tim Decora. We are in the Buck and Honey's remote studios on the east side of our great capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. The podcast is where we feature guests who share their story in hopes of helping others who may be struggling with what life throws at them. Today, I'm glad to be joined in the Buck and Honey's remote studios by Justin Kakuska. He's here to talk about how he has been part of 5 NCAA Division I national championships as a member of the University of Wisconsin women's hockey team. And you're going to hear the rest of his story and how he's still navigating his career. Segment 2, being part of a Division I athletic program is a prestigious honor, which we talked about. You've likely experienced nearly every role behind the scenes, from mopping up floors for free, sticking your foot in a door in the University of Minnesota Duluth, and then kind of taking each opportunity that has come your way and maybe expanded or grown in those roles, or maybe outgrown and you go on to something else. Talk about some of the other roles that you've held besides equipment manager.
I guess to kind of, in a way, segue from my connection to Duluth to Madison now is starting in Duluth, I was just willing to do anything just to be included and be a part of something bigger than me. And part of that was I always eventually wanted to go to a big university like Madison. And just because I kind of put my name out there or just got myself out there in Duluth, I was able to build good relationships with their staff. And it just so happened one of my bosses at Duluth, Nick Bryant, he was actually from Milwaukee. And so when I told him, hey, I want to transfer to Madison and go to school there, he goes, oh, I totally understand. I wanted to go to Madison as well, but it just didn't work out for me. But I'd love to help you as best as I can. When I transferred to Madison, he reached out to the women's team at Wisconsin and said, hey, I got a kid that wants to be a part of hockey and willing to do anything to help. If you guys can find something for him to do, that'd be great. And just so happened, the video coordinator position was open. And when I got to Madison, I had 3 different interviews, and that eventually became my first kind of real opportunity in working in sports. But to answer your other question, once I became a video coordinator, well, I'll define what a video coordinator actually is. most sports, football especially, basketball, hockey, even in tennis, softball, most of these college and professional teams have someone chopping up video for the coaches. We did it at Waunakee. Mm-hmm. So another opportunity for high school kids to get into that as well. But at least at the college level, a lot of what I would do is I would watch the game live and I tag it. And so what tagging means is say there's a turnover, I'll click T for turnover, and it'll clip it maybe 5 or 10 seconds before and after. So every time I see a turnover, I just click T. And after the game, I track maybe 50 different categories, and whether it's chances, goals, breakouts, turnovers, takeaways, just a lot of systems. And so I track and categorize all of these little clips. So after the game, after we're playing Minnesota, the coaches can see exactly, oh, this is when we turned it over, or this is when we generated scoring chances. This is when they scored against us. Why did that happen? So instead of coaches having to watch games front to back, maybe what they
had to do back in the old days.
Yep, they have a job for someone like me where I'm able to observe things that are happening in the game and categorize them for the coaches, so it's easier for them to look back and watch film.
Well, I mentioned this off air because I couldn't remember what the heck it was, but it's almost like that movie Rudy, of you're doing some of the things that like Rudy did, similar to, and now look what it's done for you, and look what it did for Rudy graduated from Notre Dame and had a movie and a book, and maybe someday we'll have a movie and a book about Justin Kakuska.
I hope not.
I hope not. Since the show has a mental health component to it, you mentioned in some of the questions that I sent you tossed back some answers. You mentioned some experiences that have tested your mental health a little bit. You touched on the being at Duluth and your roommate and his friends ended up going back to their hometowns, and there you are, kind of stuck in the room and just watching TV or whatever, trying to pass the time until they came back. Then you come down to Wisconsin, near home, but you also had some things that would test your mental well-being. Maybe not too much, but you noticed it. Go ahead and talk about that.
I had mentioned my friends going home on the weekends where I was kind of just on my own, and those are difficult just because friends are important to have. We're all humans we're all social creatures, and we want to have friends. And when you don't have friends around you, it can be hard in solitude. And through solitude, I think that it helps you ground yourself of who am I? What do I want to do? And in those weekends in my dorm, I spent a lot of time thinking about who am I? What do I want to do? What's important to me? Like, I know I want to have friends, but they're not here right now, and that's okay. What makes me feel happy even without friends? And so there was constant sports, hockey, or just trying to get out. And fortunately in Duluth, there are a lot of outdoor rinks, so we spent a lot of times just going out to the outdoor rinks and just getting out, trying to get out of the dorms. But really, I think difficult times are important. I think one thing, I wouldn't say it's a quote, I don't know where it's from, but maybe it's something I coined, but one thing that I've started to remember is that it's really important to embrace your low moments, because if this is the lowest moment you're at, it's only going to get better from here. So if you're at the darkest, deepest pit of your life, recognize that. Recognize where you are. If this is the worst moment of your life, fully embody that, and recognize that if this is the hardest part of your life, maybe it'll only get better from here.
Let's talk a little bit about being you're videotaping the games, and you're oftentimes maybe there, an hour or two after everybody else has left, coaches have left, and you're still maybe cutting up some film, or Huddle is doing that for you. But there can be a grind in some of the work that you're doing with a big time college program like Wisconsin women's hockey. Talk about what that being in that grind. There's obviously a lot of ups to that, but talk about some of the things that people maybe don't see that a equipment manager or video coordinator has to deal with.
Yeah. Well, on a day-to-day, our Super Bowls are on the weekends, and in terms of games, and there's more than what goes on in the Super Bowl that you see on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday nights. And you have practice every day that you got to make sure coaches and players are all accommodated, especially on the equipment side. It's just players always have different equipment needs. The coaches are their own animal of making sure they're all set. And then mostly it's just executing really in sports, it's really difficult to get too far ahead of yourself. Even though you have games this weekend, you have to execute today. You got to help the team get ready for today, and then you have tomorrow is another animal. We'll think about tomorrow. And so I think, especially in sports, hockey especially, or football, it can get really long seasons that really the best thing you can do is just try to attack the day as best as you can. It's hard to think about tomorrow just because it can get overwhelming.
When you're feeling a little maybe anxious, a little blue, you talked about Duluth getting out to some of the hockey rinks and just getting in some skating. You moved to Madison. You're back to familiar surroundings, but there's that grind of the season. What do you do when you feel a little bit of that stress? Is there something that you go to, or, what are your go-tos when you're feeling a little blue or a little anxious? Talk about that.
When I'm feeling blue or anxious, I think of emotions as waves. Where if you're sad, you're not going to be, hopefully not sad forever. And if you're happy, you're probably not going to be happy forever. There's going to be waves of positives and negatives. And so for me, at least for me, I just try to acknowledge my feelings of this is what, I'm not feeling the best today. You know what? That's okay. That's not how I'm. Maybe what can I do to end the day positive? And I just, for me, I wouldn't necessarily say it's anything activities. I try to think of it as a mindset of recognizing your emotions, recognizing where you're at, and every day, whether you start the day happy or sad, it's about how you end it, and try to build on that.
Who do you lean on for support? You pick up the phone, send a message, text message. Who do you lean on? Family, mentors, friends, coworkers, coaches? Who are your go-to people?
My family is a grounding support. I would categorize them as my family is a grounding kind of support system where they raised me. They know who I am. They've been through the good and the bad times. They're people that humble me and try to keep me remember who I am. I think Coach Johnson is someone that is a great mentor for me professionally. He's someone that he's able to see the bigger picture in things of what matters. Even for him, relationships matter more than we're just happy to be able to work in hockey, but really it's the relationships that we meet through hockey. That's something that he's very passionate about, and I really respect that perspective from him. And then my girlfriend Jordan, she's a great emotional support system. She's supportive in ways that maybe my family or coaches can't necessarily relate to. She knows me kind of most on the deepest interpersonal levels. I would say that she helps ground me in my mind as well.
I can't agree with you more. You got to have one person for different parts of your life that know kind of what's going on, and it's also important to have more ears on a situation that you can go to. You can go to 3 or 4 different people and get 3 or 4 different perspectives, or you can get two out of 3, and that's the one I'm going to go with, because I also agree with that too. So I think it's important to have those layers of support in your life. At age 27, you have achieved a considerable amount of success in the classroom and around the ice. Tell our listeners what it's been like to be part of 5 national championships. And I also want to remind the listeners too that Wisconsin has won more than 5. They've won 9, but you've been there for 5, the last 5. Talk about that. What are the cool things about that?
I see sports as like a project, and you have a group of 25, 30 people all working towards the same project. And, unfortunately we've been able to get an A.
A plus.
Yeah. So this is my 8th year, and we've been lucky to win 5 in my 8 years. And my first year, we won the 2019 national championship. And what I've kind of extrapolated from each of these seasons is that each season is its own story, which is really cool to be a part of. Every year you have a different group of players, at least in college and maybe even high school. It's not like you're able to keep people for long periods of time. It's cool to see people grow, your student athletes grow and become more into themselves and who they are as people. It's hard to say which one is better than the others. It's just they're all unique, and I'm sure you can attest to Waunakee High School football. We've been able to win a lot of state championships in football, but each one is special for its own unique reasons that I'm just happy to be a part of.
I can't, and I know you already talked about him a little bit, but I have to come back to Coach Johnson. What is it like to be around head coach Mark Johnson? Because I mentioned this before I hit record that I've been a fan of his since, the late 70s, early 80s, probably about 5th grade when they burst onto the scene. And he was already on the scene with the Badger hockey, but then burst onto the world national scene and world scene in 1980 with gold medal, but that win over the Russians in the semifinal that moved him to the gold medal. What's it like to be around him?
The funny thing about him is that so I mentioned earlier I had 3 different interviews before I got the job with the women's hockey team, and the first one was with the equipment manager. She was just kind of gauging who I was, and the second one was someone in the athletic department, and then the last one was with Coach Johnson himself. He had final decision making on if I got the job or not. And for me, I watched Miracle like 2 or 3 times the night before, just because I was just so happy to be able to like shake his hand and be in the same room with him. I honestly didn't really care if I got the job or not at that moment. That I was just like, I got to meet Mark Johnson. That's really cool. To me, once I got the job, I was like, oh, okay, I'm on staff. Do I call him Mark? Do I call him Coach? How does this work? And so everyone refers to him as Coach. To speak on him as a person, I would say he's insurmountable, just a really cool, humble person. And I would say he's someone that didn't seek the fame found him. He just carries himself like really like anyone in Wisconsin. He's just a Badger that he just loves Madison, and he doesn't really, he recognizes who he is, but I think at times he wants to be normal, but he also treats people, he's never going to big dog someone. He's a very authentic person. He knows who he is, and he's not going to change either. I've been lucky to work with him for 8 years that I could probably write a book on all these notes of how to be like Mark Johnson. And one thing that I've kind of learned, actually on a podcast with Tony Granato, former coach of the men's hockey team. Apparently Tony was roommates with Wayne Gretzky. And one thing that Tony said on that podcast is that he realized he was in the NHL and around all of these just very remarkable human beings. And he said, being around all of these great people, I just started taking notes on what all of their positive traits and how I can be like that and how I can be a better person. And that's something that I've taken where I see a lot of great things that Coach Johnson does, and I just take so many notes on how I can be a better person myself, what he does as a leader.
I think we're lucky to have him. And yes. Then, he's from Madison originally. Mm-hmm. And we're very fortunate that he is the coach, and also very fortunate that he is just a humble human being. And I think, probably without saying that, he is respected enormously in the state of Wisconsin.
I've kind of a funny story that I've heard secondhand that kind of speaks to just how he is that apparently in the early 2000s, he had a yard sale and was selling all of his game used 1980 Miracle on Ice stuff for like $5 for like gloves and and his neighbor came over and said, "What are you doing? This is all game worn, like Miracle on Ice. Like, what are you doing? You're selling gloves for $5." And he goes, "Why? There's hockey gloves. Who cares?" And that, I think, that kind of speaks to kind of who he is. It doesn't necessarily matter as much. To him, it's just hockey gloves. But apparently that's when they discovered eBay, and those gloves went for like hundreds of dollars. But I think that's kind of an example of
he's just a regular guy.
It's just he keeps it simple. Like just try not to get too caught up in the weeds of what things are. And actually another good one was before this speech stuck out to me for years, but before the 2023 national championship game, we're underdogs in that game, and usually he has some kind of speech at our team meal, and every year I kind of wonder what he's going to say, because it's different every year. But in 23, during our team meal, he gets up and that weekend just so happened to be the Masters at Augusta, and he said, whoever it is, it might get to a point where they're on the 18th hole and they got to make a 3-foot putt in front of 20 million people. And he said, that 3-foot putt doesn't matter if it's at Augusta in your backyard, at some random country club, that 3-foot putt is for the most part always going to be the same 3-foot putt. It doesn't necessarily matter who's watching, whether it's you're just out on your own or you got 20 million people watching, still the same 3-foot putt. But what goes into it is the practice and the what you do to prepare for that. It's always the same thing wherever you are, but it's the practice and being able to ground yourself in that moment, that it doesn't matter who's watching. It's always the same 3-foot putt. To connect that to hockey, he just said, we've, at the end of the day, that's just a hockey game. We've been practicing all year. You guys have been skating all year. And for many years, for most of your lives, you guys have played countless hockey games. What's the difference between it today being a national championship versus it being a scrimmage? You should approach every game the same way.
That story sounds to me like he's just toning it down to actually what it is, what it just is. And it's just a hockey game, and let's go out there and play. And helping the kids, the girls that are maybe struggling with their emotions, he's not making it bigger than what it is. It's just a hockey game. Mm-hmm. And let's go out there and play. And it probably helped them play a little more relaxed. Mm-hmm. And for what it really is, we play hockey because it's fun, and we also want to win. Let's talk about what Justin Kakuska's doing now, and then where would you like to see yourself in 5 years?
So I just finished my third year as director of operations and video.
The DOHO.
The DOHO. I just call it ops, but director of hockey ops. That's what I've been. This is just wrapped up my third year. So, and what DOHO, or Director of Hockey Operations, what that means is operations. So what does operations mean? It means logistics. It means figuring out everything related to the team of how they travel, how they, a lot of it is scheduling, just to keep things simple. A lot of it is scheduling. I kind of make a joke of, I tell the girls and the team where to be and they show up for the most part. So really what my job is planning and preparing a lot of the team travel and scheduling. So as much as I did say earlier about how I need to live in the moment and day to day, my job forces me to think about things 3, 4, 5 months ahead, which can be challenging at times. I would categorize myself as type B, which is even more strenuous for me, of planning things 3 or 4 months away. But fortunately, now it's my third year that I've had a few runs around the season that I've been able to build my own kind of schedule of what to expect. My first year, I got kind of just thrown into it. And so I would say my first year, this is something I've kind of learned about myself as a professional, is that it takes me about 3 years to learn something. At least for me, I got thrown into operations my first year in October, which is a few weeks into the season at that point. So I just wanted to keep the ship afloat, and I didn't want to get in the way of anything. And so my first year was really me learning the job, learning what to do, how to do it. And then after my first year, I was like, okay, all right, I've seen it all once. I think I got it. My second year was going into the season, and then problems arise that you hadn't seen the year before. My second year was really learning what could potentially go wrong, or finding my own solutions to things. And so I think the first year really is learning. The second year is, you feel like you learned it, but encountering new problems that you hadn't seen the first year and kind of putting out your own fires. And then the third year, at least for me, has been like, okay, I learned it. I think I have seen for the most part what could go wrong and how to mitigate that. And, I'm going to execute it this year. And so I think I did pretty well this year in my third year in operations. And
I think you did well too.
well, thank you.
All right, with all this experience and the success that you've had and achieved and been around, the people you've been around, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I still keep a very same mentality as when I came out of high school and early college, is that we all kind of have our own paths, and paths change a lot of times. And I've always kind of tried to speak it into existence that I would want to work in the NHL. That's something that I aspired to do. But now there's a pro women's hockey league, which wasn't an option 10 years ago. But now that I would be very willing to work in pro women's hockey league, the PWHL. Those are a couple of leagues that I would be very lucky to be a part of and help build and support. And so for me, I've tried to approach my career as a Swiss Army knife as best as I can. I don't want to niche myself into any particular holes or pockets that might be difficult to get out of. So I just try to be an overall asset to wherever I am. And so my eventual goals are to work in pro hockey, whether it's men's or women's. And I don't want to niche myself into anything specific, but those are a couple of North Stars or things that I want to follow towards, but I want to keep it open of what I actually what I end up doing, because maybe I'm a video coordinator, director of ops now at Wisconsin, but that role could very much change into something else in pro leagues that I may not have even thought of.
I think with the resume and the experiences you've had and being able to go all the way back to here's where I started and here's where I am now, it's inspiring. And to be able to have you share your story of where it started and where you are now is really cool. And whoever's listening to this is just really a playbook or a recipe for just about anything. Get your foot in the door in the restaurant business or in the business world or engineering, and follow this same kind of path that you were on, that you're willing to take on anything. You're willing to build a resume, and if that means doing some things that people don't like to do, you've done them, and look what doors have opened for you. And there's probably a lot of doors that are going to open for you in the next 5 years that I can't wait to see what happens. So it'll be fun for a former coach and teacher to see.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. This is where the subscribers, followers, and listeners take out the notebooks, pens, and pencils and jot some things down. Here are Justin Kakuska's 5 suggestions that have allowed him to survive and thrive as a member of an elite college athletic program. Here's what you shared, and I'm going to toss these in underhand softball style. Can you hit a softball?
For the most part.
For the most part, there was a little dead silence there. I was wondering, okay, yeah, I know you can hit a little black puck, but catch it in your hand, but can you strike a softball? So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to toss these in underhand softball style. I'm going to have you hit these in about 60 seconds or less. So here's what you shared. Number 1, build authentic relationships with others. Go ahead and hit that.
Yeah, just to be quick, we all have these different kinds of relationships with people, but it's more about getting to know people for who they are and building your own authentic relationships. Fortunately, I've been around a lot of different teams, and on every team I have different relationships with each person, which, in the long run, it becomes more of a genuine connection, and people are more willing to help people with genuine connections versus surface level. So I think if you have to talk to somebody about business or work or whatever it is, I think it's important to spend some time and be like, how are you doing? Outside of work, how's life? And you can get pretty far with just, how's life going? Or what are you up to after today, or whatever you're doing? And start building from there. And, you get to know people on a deeper level, and those are the relationships really worth having.
Number 2, be consistent even when results aren't immediate. Set positive routines. Go ahead and hit that. Being
consistent really starts with routines of working towards something. If you're working out, not all of us are lucky to start with big muscles, but if you keep hitting the gym and doing the consistent workouts, those results will eventually happen. And I think that can be applied to anything, especially in most of our lives. A lot of us kind of start with not much, not a lot of things. I think of being consistent when results aren't immediate and setting positive routines. I think of a snowball, where if you start on a big hill with a little snowball, you keep rolling it, and by the time it gets down that hill, it might be a boulder, And I think if you kind of approach your life kind of like a snowball, where if I keep doing the right things, the things will build on each other, and it all starts with something, and just keep working at it, keep doing it, and things will build, and next thing you know, it's a boulder, and you're like, wow, I can't believe I came all the way down that hill, and look at where we are now. Number 3, learn how to handle adversity without letting it define you. Go ahead and hit that. I think that we all have our ups and downs, and we all have good moments and bad moments, and so while we all hope we have more good moments than bad moments, I think you should be able to move on from either one of them. Okay. Number 4, stay curious and keep learning from people around you. Go ahead and hit that. Yeah. I think we're, fortunately, so many people are just experts in so many different areas that a lot of us don't even know that you can be an expert in. I think that, especially in a world with so much information, I think that it's easy to feel bombarded by information, but also find new things that you may not know about, and just try to keep learning. There's always something to learn. There's always something new to learn. Things are always changing, but also find those people that might be experts and build a relationship with those experts. And even then you don't necessarily know where things can go, but if you grow from things you don't necessarily know about.
Well said. Number 5, don't attach your entire identity to one role or achievement. Go ahead and hit that.
Yeah, part of what I said about writing our own stories, I connect this to, doesn't matter if you had the best weekend or the worst weekend or whatever it is. Mondays always come, and Mondays are days that you get yourself ready for the week. And so I think that whatever it was, your identity necessarily isn't always attached, doesn't have to be tied to good or bad. It's just Mondays come. Doesn't necessarily matter what happened this past weekend. It's just we gotta put our shoes on and get to work. So you don't have to let things define you. It's just a lot in the nitty gritty of the day to day.
Shoes or skates.
Or boots.
Or boots, yes, in Wisconsin. What an episode. I'm so glad you could join the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew today. Your approach to life and how you managed to navigate life in a big-time college athletic program is inspiring. And I think I've said that word a couple of times today. Just to where you started, where you came from, where you started, and where you're at today is truly remarkable. And sharing your story and how you can help those who want to take the same path you have, I think is really cool on your part to come here on the podcast and share that. Our call to action, Justin Kakuska just shared his story and how he has lived a life with an enormous amount of success, but has remained grounded in that. He wanted to share his story and how he has gotten to where he is today. Here are Justin Kakuska's 5 suggestions to survive and thrive. Number 1, build authentic relationships with others. Number 2, be consistent even when results aren't immediate, and set positive routines. Number 3, learn how to handle adversity without letting it define you. Number 4, stay curious and keep learning from people around you. And number 5, don't attach your entire identity to one role or achievement. Final thoughts as we close another great episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. Are there any final thoughts? Justin Kakuska.
Yeah, I just want to say truly from bottom of my heart, thank you again for even having me. This is truly just a really cool full circle moment for me. And I still remember the first time I met you, my freshman year of high school. Guy. I just didn't know where I was in this world and on our team, and to be able to sit down and be able to talk like adults and who we are as people has been really meaningful for me. And along these lines, I also want to say thank you to my parents for all they've done for me and helping me build a lot of these connections. And then also thank you to a lot of my coaches that I've had. We didn't necessarily talk much about Coach Rice, but he's been a really impactful person in my life. And what I've learned, a lot of takeaways I've learned from being on his team. And then now at UMD, the coaching staff there that even let me get my foot in the door and help connect me.
We're glad they let you in.
He got me into school, and then now Coach Johnson, just being able to learn from him has been insurmountable. And then lastly, one of my closest support systems, my girlfriend Jordan, who's been great, and I know she'll be listening. So shout out to her, and thank you, Jordan.
Finish with the best for last.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to say how proud I am of just where life has taken you, and the enormous amount of success is really, really cool. And I hope we can have you back. First of all, I hope the podcast is still around in 5 years, but it would be really cool to have you come back on the podcast, and maybe we do it from, via phone or whatever it's going to be available in 5 years to talk about where you are now. And it'll be really cool to see, where things take you.
Well, thank you.
On our next episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, we will have another amazing guest in the Buck and Honey's remote studios who will share how they learn to survive and thrive. If you have a story to share or you know someone who does, please reach out to me at tdecora@gmail.com. Until next time, hang in there with whatever you happen to be going through, and with hard work, dedication, and determination, you can survive and thrive. Until next time, take care.